Yo, yo, yo.
Hey,
Ooh,
sir.
Dragonfly
Happy New Year.
Jones.
Dragonfly Jones.
Oh
you
my
got the
God.
Dragonfly
bags and boards up on
Jones.
the wall, do you? Ooh.
Given strength by the breath of life, I'm gonna stake my claim. I'll fight to survive.
Now I'll show you some trick or two.
Oh,
can do
I'm
it.
digging that shirt, sir. Digging that
Sir, I'm
shirt.
digging that wall. Look at that wall, man. Look at that.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank you.
remember
Behind me, I
don't
just
do a lot. I don't do a lot of home. I don't do a lot of home decor, but this is what it is.
I
In the
have
meantime, behind me, I just got a couch, kitty litter, and a litter box, and
listen, I have one room in our house, and in this one room, I'm allowed to do what I want. And so I retreat down to my little man cave. See,
But
Mark,
this is my room of that.
see,
it's the
Mark,
same thing.
you feel free.
I should-
I can't even have. I don't even have
All my stuff-
medals inside the house. All of my
all my-
medals are in the garage.
all my stuff is at the Dojang. So maybe I should just recorded it from there, because then I could just done it with them. We're here. It's the first episode of this podcast, and today we are going to delve into a cinematic, I don't know what you call it, iconic.
It's an iconic
masterpiece.
film. It
An
is.
iconic film. Bloodsport.
High art.
From 19. Yes, it's artwork. This is art. Bloodsport from 1988. So I'm joined here by two of my longtime friends. I have Jerome Cabanatan from Toronto area in Canada, and Sherman Nelson. I'm not really sure actually where you're located, sir.
I'm right outside DC.
Right outside DC.
Washington, DC. Yeah.
So longtime friends of mine, all lifelong martial artists. Jerome, national team member and coach here in Canada. Sherman, national team member, longtime coach. I mean, anyone who's listening to this probably knows at least one of us. And if you never saw Sherman Nelson before, I mean, probably not been to a competition. So
if you've gone to US Open, he's probably told you where to go
and made fun of you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I probably laughed at that joke too. So
Yeah.
Probably.
So just real quick, guys, like just your like background in martial arts, if you just want to go over that like a little bit quick, because for me, I started I did a little bit of karate classes when I was younger, but then I didn't really get into martial arts until after I saw this film. And from this film, started getting more into like different martial arts movies, started Taekwondo a little bit after. But I'd say that I wouldn't say it's my favorite film of all time, but I think it's definitely the most influential. And I think for anyone of our generation, because we are going to talk about the end of like how this movie would hold up, to a first-time viewer today in martial arts. But I think to anyone, our generation or the generations, like maybe one that followed, I mean, I can't see how this wasn't a big part of an influence. So, I mean, real quick, I mean, maybe give us a bit of how you guys started in martial arts, and if this film was any type of an influence as it was for me.
So I wanted to take martial arts all my life. My mom, single mom, she was like, boy, I don't have money to spend on karate. Got to Howard and saw the Taekwondo team running one day. This is a true story. So I see them leave the gym and they're going for a run. Grandmaster Alpha's leading them. I think that they're making a karate movie. So I want to see what's going on in the karate movie. So I run behind them. And they get all the way back to the gym. I find out it's Howard University's Taekwondo. I had never heard of Taekwondo. I found out then they were like, Grandmaster Alpha was like, come back Wednesday, bring your slip and your $35 and 1986. And my life would not be the same had I not followed those people that I thought were going to do a martial arts movie. I can't imagine the life I would have without Taekwondo in it. So since then, done a lot of stuff in Taekwondo, but this movie it wasn't a cinematic masterpiece, but it was a sign of the times. And for 1988, we were all hyped. I see you got your soul shirt on. We were all hyped because Taekwondo was in the Olympics. And so we were all pumped. I had 5 members from Howard University in the Olympic Games. So, I was cutting myself bleeding martial arts at the time. When this movie came out, I was like, oh, we got to take it up a couple notches. So I think that this movie has its place in the pantheon of martial arts history.
Yeah. I think I don't think anyone will ever like say it. It definitely, as we go along, we'll discuss it. It really doesn't have the best choreography by any means of martial arts, but I can remember this movie. I can remember more about this movie than 100 Hong Kong kung fu movies. Like it's like it's more of a place in my mind as far as that.
With the exception of the egregious movies, Master of the Flying Guillotine, One Arm Boxer, with the exception of that kind of stuff. Oh, Bloodsport. And the cool thing is that Bolo transitioned from the 70s and Bruce Lee movies into this. He carried a generation and connected this generation to the 70s, the John Holloways, that whole, that whole 1970s crowd. We were able to meet each other at Bloodsport. And then, of course, martial arts movies have gone 1,000 miles an hour since then.
Jerome, what about you? Did this movie? I mean, because you're like we're the same age.
Yeah, so like I don't even know when the movie came out because I didn't really.
It was 88. I just looked.
I didn't really go to like
wasn't sure. Yeah,
theaters and stuff, but it was I remember just being like my grandparents had HBO and at the same time somebody's friends would have it, and then we'd make bootleg tapes, and then you just have it in the house. So I started taekwondo at the community center when I was 5. I didn't really I thought it was karate. My dad called it karate because that's what it was. It was karate. We just went and we did things, and Bloods. I wanted to start because of like cartoon, like cartoons stuff. Like I like the Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, right? Whenever like Thundercats was fine, but when you see Panther with the nunchucks, you're like, I want to be that guy. That's the one, right? Anytime that there's a Hayat character, I'm like, that one. That's the one I want to be. And so we went to a community center and just practice. We do horse riding stance on Saturday for 20 minutes or whatever. But Bloodsport was like the movie that my brother, he's the one who's like, let's watch this. And it wasn't just watching the movie itself. The movie itself was, you didn't see it, right? I actually went into like the Shaw Brothers stuff like later in my life. But right now, like things like Bloodsport, it really got me sucked in, right? It really got me sucked in. Like even if the matches themselves weren't good, like the way it's built up and just the the cartooniness of the characters. Like you can't tell me that you can't tell me that Jackson's not a cartoon.
It's very
like, he's a cartoon.
It's very pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And the presentation of this movie.
Yes.
Like everyone's got a gimmick, everyone's got a character, there's guys with superhuman strength, there's the guys cheating at the end to win. It's just like,
and then there's guys that look like Asian Jimmy Hart, right? And it's like they go in, right? But those kinds of things have stuck with me, and it wasn't just watching the movie itself, it was also watching it with my older brother, right? When like it sounds, right, it sounds cheesy, but like it's watching it with your family. Like some people had Pinocchio. My family had Bloodsport, right? And so it was and that did set everything off. Whether it's, I guess I do it subconsciously, was whenever I watch like a martial arts movie, it always has to go back and like I measure it up against Bloodsport. It's like is it above or below, right? Or about the same. It really is a measuring stick for it. Whether you want it to be like good martial arts, how influential it was, or how campy it is, right? Because you can measure that. You can measure that too.
We open up here. Right away, one thing that I forgot when we started the film, because the thing is, in the first, I'd say in the first 15 minutes of this movie, you get all the exposition, and it's like there's, after the first 15 minutes, there's like no character development. It's just fights.
It's Street Fighter. It's Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the first thing I forgot was when you see the opening thing, Canon Films. Like, I mean, I actually forgot about that studio, but you think about how many classics had that Canon logo at the beginning, like Delta Force, Over the Top, all those, like, that's a studio that, if you were an action movie fan in like the 80s and going to the early
They
90s.
they really owned the 80s. The first where's the first place you saw Jean-Claude Van Damme?
In
No Retreat, No Surrender.
See,
And
he
then
was
I saw this first.
He was actually in Breaking, which is another canon. It's a breakdance
Really?
movie. I can't.
He was in Breaking?
Absolutely. He's in the beach scene. When they are dancing on the set, he has a really inappropriate little bathing suit on, and it looks horrible. But he's in the
But it
beach.
got him the job, though, didn't it?
But he got like 15 sets. So I said all that to say is that they were positioning artists and actors. Even then, this was 4 years before Bloodsport came out. Then No Retreat, No Surrender. Everybody remembers the feet up on the ropes.
Yeah, the ropes, yeah.
In the split, and we're holding the split.
So we were gonna do that film for the first episode, and I was just like Jerome was just saying, it's kind of too niche, whereas this one's a little more mainstream and out there, right?
Yeah, and then Bloodsport I think is the one because people relate to it who never even saw it. They will talk about it, and even having never seen it, but they've heard so much about it. So I was just going back to the point that in the 80s, the Canon group Golan Globus,
I think it was Golan Globus Production.
There you go. There you go. I almost said gobble
Tongue twister like crazy,
But they owned at least 10 years of making movies because they made these movies, the Sylvester Stallone movies, the Chuck Norris movies. They made
even the American Ninja with what was the guy? I don't remember his name. The guy was in it. It was American Ninja.
Yes, the dude that at no point made you think anything linguistically.
Yeah, I remember American Ninja 3. But that's how
I don't know.
That's how
they all blur together.
How much American Ninja that I watched.
So the movie we get going here, and so we see the setup of the venue, but I'd say very underrated in the scheme of movies overall is the musical score in this film. So that first track that kicks in when they're setting up the doom, the doom, the doom, the doom, 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 and it's like that, and then it builds up, and then the beat drops in when they show the training scenes, and it's like, I don't think this film gets enough credit for how good the score is, and not the songs that come in later with the lyrics, just the actual score for this movie. It's perfect. Like I don't see how they could have done a better score.
I don't think there's another martial arts movie where I even noticed the score.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it was real bad or something, and then it might if you put some thought in. Movie,
and you hit it right on the head, even from the opening, because you're right. You gave it 15 minutes. I would give it maybe 8 minutes. There's all the setup and explanation, and then it is go time. It is go time from that point on. But the music, and again, it's back to the 80s. The 80s was driven by hard rock, rap music. It was driven by that
synthesizers and stuff.
Beat, right. And so they knew what to capitalize on to get your heart pumping fast.
And I looked in afterwards, and I was like, because I wanted to see what else has this person done score for? And their next credit was Kickboxer, which also has that good score in the end fight scene. So I mean, this guy, I don't think he did too much after these movies, but he really maximized his run.
He took advantage of his 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. So we go to some scenes here. Like briefly, we're introduced to some of the fighters, the prominent fighters in the tournament. And what I got out of this was like, again, like I absolutely love this movie. As many jokes as I'm gonna crack about how a lot is illogical, I mean, it does not take away from this movie at all. But we see a lot of training scenes that look like they had a lot of unnecessary setup for like the amount of training that was being done. Like Chong Li's kicking, he's got 3 heavy bags made of ice. So you got to think this probably took at least a day to construct for like 2 seconds of training. And then his coach is like, all right, we're ready. Let's go to the Kumite. You see there's a random guy. I'm not sure which guy this is in the tournament, and I've just watched it. They show a random guy like doing jumping knees through like wooden signs. I don't know who this guy even is in the tournament later. We see the guy who, I don't know if we're supposed to be led to believe that he was raised in the wild or something, but he jumps from the ground into a tree to do one knife hand chop on a coconut. So
that's the guy who does the it's like the monkey style, right? The guy that jumps around. Yeah.
But it's not like he's just doing the monkey style kung fu. Like, they're portraying his character as if he's actually like Mowgli or something from the Jungle Book, like like everything. It's not because, you know, his whole demeanor is in that stance. It's not like he stands up at all, right?
Right.
So
see, that's the point you made. But that's the point you made, Mark, that they made each character one with his environment and upbringing and history, so that it wasn't a person against a person. It was
the gimmick,
fighting the elemental guy versus the ice guy versus the, you know, so it went to, so if you're not going to develop their characters, you've got to visually give us a whole back. So we have now created a whole backstory for Jungle Man, who now just chops coconut milk. Right.
In which you start to think, like, just hit a guy one time with that strike. You know, if you can chop,
if it can go through a coconut,
if
it can go through a coconut, I'm almost certain a neck is not going to stand up.
And then the best part about this is, I was laughing. I messaged Jerome when I saw this. Is he jumps from, this is pure 80s editing. He jumps from the ground up to the tree branch, and then it cuts to a shot of him landing down on the tree branch. So we're supposed to assume that this cat should have been in the NBA or something, or like
he jumped 20 feet to land on the 12-foot bridge.
I'd like to know,
practical if you train hard enough. If you train hard enough, you can do that.
Like, I'd like to know. I remember just on a rewatch. I was thinking that beginning, that opening sequence with all the training montages, like that's Street Fighter. Like, there's like Street Fighter 1, which it was just right or whatever. But like when it was Street Fighter 2, that's when things started kicking off. And I'm thinking about the timeline and how long it takes for something to develop. Like, how much of Bloodsport is in Street Fighter 2?
Well, you think you have E-Honda.
Yeah.
You have, I mean, well, essentially you've both franchises, because obviously Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat is Frank Dukes, right?
Yeah. Splits.
And then you kind of have Blanca, I guess, with that one guy. There's no female in this. We don't have a Chun-Li, but that's totally right. I mean, I think that's, and we did also get the guy whose leg gets broken. I don't know if he's having a Muay Thai. He's having a Muay Thai match at a campfire or something. And like, they're just in the middle having this Muay Thai fight in a campfire, and then out of nowhere it just cuts to some random close-up, and I couldn't stop laughing. Cuts to just some random guy. I always like to watch the extras in the background in fight scenes. It's so entertaining.
Because they tell them, listen, here's your 50. We gave you $100 for showing up today. The camera's going to stay on you for 3 seconds. So they know when that camera comes, it's, oh, and they slow it down, man. It's world class. Listen, you have one shot, and some people probably went to auditions with that with that screenshot. Like, you know, I was in Bloodsport, right? I was in I was slow motion, double fist pump guy, right?
So we got two more. We get the sumo guy. His training is essentially he just picks the heavy bag up and throws it at his training partners, and then just laughs at them. But then we get into Jackson and Frank. So Jackson apparently, I guess, is a boxer. He's in a boxing gym, and like led me to wonder later, like, how did he get the invitation? Because he seems like he just has no skills when he fights. But he's in a boxing gym, and we get a quick little intro to him. Then we get Frank. He's working out in the military gym, and he gets that word or whatever. The guy comes in. I can't remember exact verbiage, but he says, like, the commander found out you're going to Hong Kong. He wants to talk to you, and he goes AWOL or whatever. But it's funny because, so I'm confused. Is the Kumite? They keep saying it's a secret, underground, top secret tournament. But I feel like everybody knows about the Kumite. The military knows about it. The reporters know about it. There's a full audience.
Right.
Because
if he got an invitation
for the nationals.
Right. So nationals are a secret, hidden, underground top flight tournament of the world that we post on the internet. Right. You go online, fill out your registration. But it's top secret, right?
I just found it funny, and even when the guy you referred to as the Jimmy Hart comes in later on, he says that he's been up, like it's a secret tournament, but the first thing he says is, "I've been appointed by the IFAA to be your host or whatever." So it's like, which is it? Is it a secret tournament, or does everybody know about it?
They didn't put as much into script development.
No, they wanted to get through that exposition.
I think what they did. I think what happened was, like the writers basically took the Enter the Dragon script, and then they never went back. Right? They never went back to like redo it. Like they just started like, yeah, it's secret tournament on this island. Okay, they write it down, and then they just never went back. Right? They never went back to fix it because it's like, doesn't matter.
Or what they did was they planned the fights first, and then they reverse engineered the story or whatever, like back then.
Yeah,
which I mean, I don't want to get into the whole Frank Dukes. I mean, it's obviously it's common knowledge. This guy just kind of BS the whole story, which I guess before the internet you could probably do. You could probably just go to Hollywood, and be like, yeah, I did this, and just make up some cool story, give them enough money and whatever. But
even on the internet you can do that. So
yeah, it still happens, right?
Right.
We get the scene with the commander. So the guy, Frank, goes AWOL. I don't know how, because the guy says he's going in there to wait for him to shower. So I don't know if there's Frank jumped through the heating system. I don't know what he did. We go to the commander, and we were just having a discussion, Sherman, about this before you came on, as that this is, I don't know if you guys noticed that this is the first dubbed voice we get, is this American commander guy, because the guy, the recruit or whatever, goes in and he says something along the lines of like, you know, Duke's disappeared. And I don't know why this commander sounds like a constable from an 80s cartoon, but the voice that comes out of him is like, "What do you mean Frank disappeared?" And like, "You better not come back here before Duke's." And it reminded me of, I don't know if you guys remember that show Cops. It was a cartoon. It was like C.O.
Central Organization of Police Specialists. And
it sounded like something you would hear in that, or like G.I. Joe or something. So, which I was on the phone with George at the time when I was watching it, and I said, like, okay, I get it if this guy is like British or Australian or something, and maybe he'd had an accent, so they wanted him to sound more American. But if that's the case, why does it matter when you have Jean-Claude Van Damme playing your main special forces? Like, why go to the trouble to dub this guy's voice? See, unless he just had the worst voice you could ever have on screen. But I just laughed, so I kept rewinding it. Like, what do you mean? The only thing he was missing was that twiddling his
with the mustache. See, that gives some credence to your reverse engineering idea, that we could have shot all the fight scenes and gotten that out the way, and then went back and built the story. Yeah, and you know, we were up against a timeline. We've got to get this in by 6 today, and let's just add. We need a guy saying, "What do you mean?" And they just went and found a random guy who says, "What do you mean?" And he had. It's obvious that, again, the peripheral elements of the movie were not necessary, but they weren't necessary in the 80s.
Yeah,
because all we cared about was, when does this tournament start? Because we know that the montages get us all worked up. It's just like the Rocky format. You get all worked up. Rocky's in Russia, and he's lifting wagons and throwing wood, and Drago is running at 600 miles an hour, punching at 8,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. Yet you can punch a person for 15 rounds, and you can punch at 8,000 pounds of pressure, but you can hit a person's nose 37 times and his nose not break.
It's funny what we'll accept in entertainment, because like, I'm like a big pro wrestling fan. And I was watching the other night, and this guy, they get on the corner and they're like, 1, 2, 3, and the whole crowd counts, 20 punches to the face, and he's fine. But then he gives him like a backbreaker, and it's done. 1, 2, 3. It's like, so I think we're in the age that we all understand that 20 punches to the face.
Listen. And I think every action movie oversells a human being's ability to withstand a punch or a kick to the face. They sell, like, I mean, people eat a night like, and they, and bro, listen, all 3 of us have kicked people pretty decently hard in the face, and they with helmets on, and they did not get up.
Yeah.
And these people are getting hit barefoot or with heels, and they just kind of shake it off.
Have you guys ever seen The Marine with John Cena? It's like
Yeah.
a Commando ripoff. There's a scene where he's running down an, I know we're getting totally off topic, but he's running down an aisle, and there's a guy waiting behind the aisle, and he's got a fire extinguisher or something, and he just hits a home run on his face and not drops him. And then he gets up in the next scene, he's like, like not even a mark.
That's not, there's no, how is your orbital bones are shattered if I hit you with the fire.
Like the movie's over at that point.
Right, and you're running into it full steam.
Yeah.
Come on, man. But again, you don't have those movies without Bloodsport.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have those
Well,
movies.
you definitely don't have that one without Commando. You don't have, I mean, as I'll get into later, you don't have any other Van Damme movies without Bloodsport. I mean, because No Retreat, No Surrender didn't have them on the map. What we've talked about right here is 3 minutes and 35 seconds of film. Like all that exposition, right? That's how much they jammed it. 3 minutes and 35 seconds, which leads us into the longest flashback scene that I can ever remember. So Frank escapes and he goes to visit his Shidoshi, I'm guessing, master. And he immediately gets this flashback of the scene where, as a child, Frank and two of his friends broke in an open window of this man's house. Now, the first thing, we'll get into young Frank Dukes in a minute here, and the actor, the kid. But what I found hilarious about this is, so Tanaka knows that he can hear a burglar in this house where he knows there's sharp katana swords and other who knows what else. So naturally and it's not like he knows that there's kids breaking in. Like he just, there's a burglar in that room. So naturally what you would do is stand back and let your 10-year-old son just run in. Like not knowing what he's going to run into, you know?
Right.
But we get the whole scene where, you know, we lead into flashback and how he trained and he meets Tanaka, and Frank is a interesting child. He's I think, to say the least. He's got a San Francisco Giants hat on and a New York Giants jersey. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he just really likes Giants, I suppose. Doesn't care what sport, doesn't matter. And so basically Tanaka takes his sword and slices Frank's hat, and because Frank didn't flinch, he finds him a good candidate to be a fighter.
Jerome, back me up on this. We all would have taken the kid who doesn't flinch at a sword. All of us, because at the right time he will of course flinch.
That's yeah.
See, you don't understand how deep the movie was deeper than you think. He was like, but I know that I will have a bond with you, so I won't lean away. I'll stay in here and I'll risk this dismemberment from a razor sharp sword so that we can have a bond that'll last a lifetime. Bro,
I would have made sure, like I would have chosen the kid, because if I'm gonna swing a sword and he's not even gonna blink and he's gonna let me do that, no, you need Taekwondo, buddy. You need martial arts training. So, and apparently my son needs a friend too. So
right.
Yeah. So Tanaka meets with Frank's parents and convinces them that you know, he is to train martial arts, and then we go to the training scenes where apparently he doesn't train Frank. Like it's just like his son just beats the crap out of him, and that's his whole purpose, is just the training part. I mean, I guess he kind of does say that.
It's called hazing.
He kind of does say that, right? He says, "You brought you to train my son," because we get the wonderful dialogue of, "How come you coach him but not me?"
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh yeah, we gotta talk about the dialogue here. Okay, so Frank obviously is a young version of Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's got an accent, being from Belgium. So at the time I was wondering, like, is this kid's voice actually, like, it's not good. Like it's the first he opens up with, "I wasn't trying to steal it." And then we move on to like cinematic, like, you know, you're not gonna call the cops.
You have fighting spirit.
You're not gonna call the cops?
Not if we make a deal.
What kind of a deal?
And so I'm sitting here,
Yeah.
I'm trying to piece it together. Like, is that this guy's voice? Or did they just take a kid and say, you're, because these scenes were shot in the United States, these scenes. So like, did they just take a kid and say, you got to try to imitate Jean-Claude Van Damme's voice? And that's what came out. But we looked it up while we're waiting for you to come on the call. And this guy actually apparently is Australian that played that kid. So, which leads me into believe, because there's a lot of dubbed voices in this movie. There's a few more to come. And I actually was just saying to Jerome, I was like, I wonder if it's like the same voice actor that just, they were like, do a young Van Damme, do an American Commander, do an Arabic guy, do whatever, Chong Li, you know, because the voices, they're not just dubbed voices, they're very exaggerated voices.
Right. And it's probably the voiceover guy.
Yeah, it's one guy. It's the same guy that they found to say, what do you mean Frank's not here?
Okay,
And they
so
said,
I hear Van Damme as an adult, and I need to turn that into a teenage version. Okay, but then I need to step on it times 50 because this is a Canon Group film. So you know what man, the first time I saw it, I just was like, man, this is a powerful scene. Every time after that, I'm like, let me mute the TV because I don't want to hear any talking. I don't want to hear that.
luckily he's only got a few lines before we go to
there's like
day.
I got a question. Do you know if Frank Dukes actually ever in real life had an accent? Right, because
this is what,
because if he had an accent, it's one thing, but if they made the kid have the accent just because Jean-Claude Van Damme had the accent, or they dubbed it on him.
I always found it
Australian accent.
I always loved how the Van Damme or the Schwarzenegger or any of Dolph Lundgren, anytime you had those guys in a movie in the 80s, they would give them the most obviously not from their culture names. Like Schwarzenegger with John
Van Damme
Matrix.
was Guile. Van Damme
Guile,
was
yeah.
Guile.
John Matrix for Schwarzenegger takes the cake. Like that. Come on, like John.
There's nobody who's going get to the chopper who's going to be named John Matrix. There's not one
Frank
John
Dukes.
Matrix in the world.
And the best thing about this is that like like yes, Frank Dukes did make this story up or whatever to make this film, but like they could have changed his name. Him being Frank Dukes does not mean it doesn't add anything to this movie.
Right.
It's just like this could be like, it's because it's not like Frank Dukes is a well-known name in the world anyway, right? Like,
well, that's why
the true story of Frank Dukes. Like nobody's buying it. Oh shit, Frank Dukes. You know, like it's just like cool action movie.
Yeah. Well, that's why they made the quest. That's why they made the quest. The quest was Van Damme with old Van Damme with a little bit of the hard target bullet that he had.
Time cop, yeah. So they start training, and then one of the key elements of there's actually not as much discussion when the fights start, if you think about it, because the fights are kind of quick and easy. So most of the discussion of the film is before the tournament. The Tanaka says to the kid's parents, Frank's parents, he says, Frank needs to train. He sees my son's skill and he wants to be like that. But then we just see like the son just getting punched in the gut one time, dropped in the schoolyard, and Frank saves him. Yeah, and so I don't know about the boy's skill. I don't know if he was going to carry on the Tanaka legacy too well from the looks of those flashbacks, because he was already training at that point.
Right.
Yeah, so, but that gives the reason why someone like Jackson should be in the Kumite.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe the Kumite is really just like the Delaware State Championship or something. You know, it ain't really.
It's a step up above. It's the Hong Kong version of the All Valleys.
Yeah.
Yes.
We go to the training scenes. Well, we the son dies. Frank convinces, and it was actually a well done scene. The guy who plays Tanaka in that scene where they're mourning his son, he's actually like, the emotion is real on him. And we get the training scenes. The training scenes basically consist of the camera zooming in on Tanaka's face, and then it cuts to Frank just falling down. And they do this like 6 times. Like, this is the training. The camera just goes on Tanaka, and then just they show Frank falling. And then it's like, so we're to assume that he's just running at Tanaka and getting thrown down, I guess. But eventually, I don't know how long this training montage is supposed to go on. Like I said, it's actually 15 minutes of montage. But Frank has been training. I mean, how old do you guys figure he was in those old scenes as a young Frank? Probably what, 11, 12? He's a fully grown man in these training scenes, but he seems like he's learned nothing. So not only was he serving as the punching bag for the son, but he kept training with this dude for a decade and hadn't learned anything until the son
Hadn't learned anything, right?
Nothing.
Right.
Takes a beating for a while, and then I was saying the other day, like, man, any of my students ever complained that my belt grading curriculum is too hard. This Joker was a white belt still.
Listen,
and in order to,
he had all the stars and all the little stripes. He had the teacher's aide. He had the best student. He had all the patches, but he was still just a white belt.
He didn't, you know what he didn't have? You know which one he didn't have? He didn't have the splits club. He didn't have that one.
Yes.
And then when he got that one,
then he went from white belt with 9 yellow stripes to red belt. Yeah. He got a quintuple promotion once he got to the splits club.
Yeah. It was too funny. Like, his grading, basically, it's funny because you like to compare it as you know, a school, or you compare it, you laugh, compare it to like real tournaments and real. His final step is finally to do a pumse while Tanaka is just beating him with a stick, like hitting his limbs. And then the splits between the trees, which you think when he pulled the tree down with his one leg, that would hurt more, like from that fall. Like, I don't imagine that being a good landing. And then his final test is the best, because Frank has to take a tray of tea blindfolded and set the table, and then sits down, and Tanaka gives him like a ridge hand, and Frank blocks it. I want to see the deleted scenes, because Frank is like obviously not skilled like that at the beginning. I want to see the scenes where he has to learn to do this, and Tanaka just goes wham, and just there's no reaction, and just he's still in that no flinch. He's still in that no flinch stage, and he just wears that. You know,
not flinching on that ridge hand, and you sit there and you see this in slow motion.
But it's so it would be 3 times at 3 different angles, like we'll pull.
And the last one would be like a back fall, like, you know, all the teeth up. And then
all the teacups would fly up in the air. Right. Yeah.
And then you just cut over to Mrs. Tanaka, like, like she's had to do it so many times and clean up the mess, you know. We get to Hong Kong, and like the first thing you notice is, like, even for like 1988, the cinematography, it like kind of makes you want to go there. Like, it's a very beautiful landscape. They show a cityscape. We get Jackson coming on the bus. They kind of make you think like he's going to be the antagonist of the movie here, because he gets on the bus and he's kind of being an asshole, and he jumps in, hey babe, you want to go out with a big man? He's got his feet on the thing. I feel like he's always got a beer in his hand, even the morning of the tournament when he goes in the hotel.
Wasn't he the main guy in Best of the Best?
No, he was the guy in Revenge of the Nerds. He was Ogre in Revenge of the Nerds. Best of the Best is Sean Penn's brother, right?
Oh, okay. All right. So that
Chris
same
Penn.
character exists. It's just a different person. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So then they kind of bond. They play Karate Champ, which, I mean, I'm sure you guys have both played Karate Champ. Is like the most herky-jerky. There's no way that someone who hadn't played that game would pick it up that fast. No, speaking of which,
no way you would get both those joysticks to move. Yeah.
Actually, I have a version of it right here. I have a mini version of it right there.
I remember that game, Karate Champ. That used to be the most frustrating. I could only score with a reverse punch, because every time you figure out you do a back kick, you do one back kick, boom, boom, and you're just backwards. You don't turn back around.
And then you get back around. Yeah, getting a punch to the back of the head.
I just remember that. Hashime. And then you jump and showboat. That was on the arcade.
Break the boards. You had the time you jump.
Yeah, the flower pot. Yep.
We meet the reporter. She knows about the Kumite too. Don't know how. Don't know who she's reporting for. The news, the paper. It doesn't matter.
She works for Interpol.
Yeah.
So
And we know, and you know right away, like as soon as the
Channel 6
camera,
news.
as soon as the camera turns to her, we're like, her purpose is the love interest. That's it doesn't matter what report she's doing. She basically just spends all day at this hotel bar talking to the fighters, trying to get some information. We meet Asian Jimmy Hart, as you call them. He's my favorite character in the movie. Lin. When he only has two levels of emotion, either he's really excited or he doesn't give a damn, like in his voice. Like when they first talk to me, yeah, I'm Lin. You Jackson? Yeah, you look like a Jackson. Like he just doesn't seem like he cares at all. And then, but at the event, he's like, all of a sudden they're bonded, like he's coaching him and stuff. It's like, I don't know. Again, another character who doesn't really, if you took him out of the movie, even though he's got some quotable lines, I don't really think it would have made the movie any worse, without him. But yeah, I mean, it's just on right from there into the thing. Like they go over to the venue, probably the most unrealistic credential pickup I've ever seen. In order,
bricks?
so you have an invitation to the Kumite. You go to present your invitation that they sent you, and then they won't accept it because he's not Japanese. So in this world, if you're not the same race as your coach, you got to break a brick.
Yep.
That's like
the bricks are all. This is old school. This is hardcore. This is the 80s.
The bricks are set up. It's like, so there's this, they must have a lot of these cases of guys having to prove themselves because they got a big stack of like 15 bricks there.
Right. Or they have a lot of circumstances that require a brick break test.
Yeah.
So differentiating yourself from your coach, that's one. Not having your cup, that's two. There's some other things that we just didn't see in the movie, but they're like, up to the brick break.
You don't have your global athlete license. Go break the brick.
Yes.
It's like next time anyone complains about a credential pickup of being long or like
listen, at the next US Open, we need to have somebody come to pick up their credential, go over to the brick break. And we
just have do you have a stack of bricks there?
And there's you got Jay Poose sitting there, somebody monitoring the brick break and make sure that's good enough.
With his dobak, with all the instructor stripes, with all the stars, all of that. We need all of it.
We get some more quotable lines from Lin, son of the bitch. That's his reaction to the guy, to the brick break. We meet Chong Li and Hossein here, which gives us our next two dubbed in voices, which is even funnier because Bolo Young does speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And he speaks like in Double Impact and when I've heard him do interviews, he speaks English, but it's broken. So instead of just letting Bolo Young speak in his regular voice with broken English, they got a guy to imitate a guy speaking broken English who sounds like they give him this really very good, but brick not hit back. And it's like Bolo could have just said that.
Right. And it would have sounded exactly the same.
And he is saying it. He is saying it, like his mouth's moving in those words. And it was just like, again, just so unnecessary. And, you immediately start to see like who the villains are going to be because like, people start applauding and then they have to really do the hard zoom on the Arabic guy and Chong Li here. We get the scene with the coin trick in the where is it? Is that the hotel bar too? I can't really remember. I think it is, right?
Because that's how he saves the girl.
That's how he meets the girl. And then we get easily my favorite line in the movie. Oh no, that comes later. That comes later after when he meets him in the ring. But yeah, he gets the girl from Hussein there, who I mean, he looks like he might be Filipino or Thai. He's definitely not Arabic. This guy playing Hussein in this film, which in that case, okay, I understand why they might dub the voice, right? Because if Hussein started talking, sounds like 1995 World Championships commentary. It might not sell the.
But I don't. That's the thing. It's not like that. The accent of the voice is anything that you can break down. It's just generic foreign.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like
his
the
whole
same
accent.
voice as Chung Li. It's like the same voice as Chung Li, basically. It's just a little higher pitched. But yeah,
because he's not as level as he doesn't reach the bad guy level as much as Chong Li. So that's where the pitch goes.
But here's one thing about this movie that I didn't realize, and I'm not sure if you really think about it, they don't give you any indication that Chong Li is going to be the main villain. It almost like you think that this guy is going to be the main villain, like because there's really no interaction between other than Chong Li just looking at him. Right. But this Hossein guy is like, he's the one who's being set up here as the antagonist, and then they kind of throw you a swerve, and he just beats him in like 5 seconds, right, when they fight. Because you don't know that, like, you don't find out who Chong Li is until like he actually gets on the ring to fight.
So that's that, you know, they say really good stories have that pseudo climax.
Yeah.
And, you thought he was the bad guy, and you realized that the real mastermind was Ice Grill.
We get to the tournament scene. I'm sure I skipped over, but I mean, the stuff with Van Damme and the reporter is so, it doesn't matter. You know, even with Forrest Whitaker and the other cop, I forgot about that. They send the 2 police or the military, I'm not sure what they are, but their whole purpose in the movie is just because they can't just have fight scenes. And like I said before, they probably had to go back because they just had to have something to fill time with, because it really makes no sense. Like, they're chasing Frank around Hong Kong, and they have the little bit where doesn't he outruns them, and they fall in they're like running on boats or something, and they're trying to chase him around the town, and he eludes them, but like they know where he's staying at the hotel. Like, they could just go back to the hotel and arrest him.
And you know where he's going to be.
Yeah, and you know where he's going to be because everybody knows about the Kumite.
Right.
So
everybody knows about the secret Kumite.
Exactly.
They know which hotel he's at to go and try and arrest him with their giant tasers that look like Zach Morris's cell phone from Saved by the Bell, which they fall in the water with and then use them in the next scene.
They tried him out. They had a big bowl of rice. You didn't see the rice.
But yeah, those characters, you could it was cool to see like a Forrest Whitaker in like an early role, like, because knowing is how prominent he became. But those characters really didn't serve any purpose other than to fill time between fights.
You think about all of those other movies, they have to have the fillers in between fights. And Breaking, you have to have fillers in between the dance scenes.
Yeah.
So
what I mean is that the story wasn't designed and then the fights were put in. Like, it's like they had, okay, we need a preliminary round day, we need a quarterfinal day or whatever, we need a final day. What are we going to do in between? Well, we got to have someone chase. We got to have someone chase Van Damme around because he went AWOL. And then a couple years later, they make Lionheart. Van Damme goes AWOL. 2 guys chase him into the U.S. You know, it's the exact same story, right?
And we did get permission. We did get permission to use the boats. So let's have him chase him across the boats. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I thought the fight scenes in the preliminaries they were pretty fun. Like the main characters didn't waste too much time. Like they established really quickly that they're the main guys. Like, you knew right away from watching the first round which like 3 or 4 or 5 cats were going to be there in the last.
It's the opening round of Survivor Series. Like you know, like it, or in King of the Ring, you know, it's like this one's not going to be close. The first I'm not going to break down every fight here, but the first fight I liked, it was the kickboxer guy from the campfire, who is it was Tong Po. I'm not sure if you guys realize that's Tong Po from Bloodsport. That guy that gets his leg broken in this movie is the guy who plays Tong Po in Kickboxer. Yeah, this guy's in every Van Damme movie in his early run, because I remember hearing that they were like they moved over together to the United States or something, so like they were training partners. So that's why this guy, if you look at any of his, he's one of the guys in Lionheart chasing him down too. He's but that's Tong Po that gets his leg broken in this. But yeah, good couple good fights. I did write a couple things down. Jackson does his first fight against a guy. How did this guy get invited? You know, like, he's just some guy who looks like he looks like a fighter today. He's like a 6'2", 50 fin weight. Yeah. And then Jackson does, I guess, an axe handle to the nose, hits on one of those, and that's his display of skill.
Completely right.
Yeah,
but that's where it gets realistic, because that guy that size, hammer fist on your nose, you're out.
yeah.
Like Jackson reminds me of like how everyone thought of like Tank Abbott. Like when Tank Abbott came into the UFC, it was like everyone had a style, and he was like barroom brawl, right?
Yeah.
And for a large early part, it really did work, right? So like Tank Abbott was like manifested because of Jackson, right? Like it made real, right?
Yeah. Chung Lee quickly dispatches of his first guy. We find out that Chung Lee is the defending champ. He killed the guy at the last Kumite. This is Chung Lee's thing, basically. He doesn't do anything. He just walks at you, takes every shot you hit him with, and just hits you with like once or twice. That's like at all of his fights.
He's Jason.
You really go back and watch his fights. He's Jason Voorhees. He just walks forward, boom, boom, boom. Doesn't Undertaker, doesn't sell anything, and then that's it.
Hit you with the mean Mark heart punch, right?
Which is, oh my God. It's funny though, because like Bolo's got a lot of skill. You know, like they could have actually put, like, he does very basic stuff. Like one's just punch. That's it.
Yeah, but
they don't really
Mark,
have him use his.
And you got to remember that he's not the primary character. So we don't let him use his voice. We don't let him use his skill, because we don't want to take away from who the star of the show is.
Exactly.
Because who wouldn't want to see both? Man, you'd want to see a dude that big get loose on somebody.
But yeah, and because when we get to the final scene, though, I feel like it's like you're waiting for Chung Lee to have that like display of like why he's so badass. He doesn't really ever do anything spectacular. So it's like Van Damme's just kind of just overwhelms him.
And what's worse is they had to get him to cheat before he got to that point. Right?
Yeah.
If he'd have went really hard, and then it didn't work, and then he went to cheat, you can give more credit. If you're just cheating from the beginning, right? You mean that thing that tablet didn't dissolve through all that sweat and all that, all that you getting beat up?
Frank has a good coincidental draw. He draws the guy he had the coin bet with. He beats him in about 3 seconds, but not after the best line in the entire movie. Now I show you some trick or two. Hands down, no line in this film like that. Now I show you. The amount of times that I said that growing up, and people were just looking at me like, "Now I show you some." Yeah, just but
nobody got it. Nobody got it.
But yeah, like I said, it's a good swerve because it's a good swerve though, because they do build that guy up like he's going to be a big antagonist, and then he's immediately dispatched of. So I kind of like that watching back. We get the montage of fight scenes. I mean,
sorry, but out of that fight, when he loses his tooth and homie that's cleaning the ground, and he's like, and he goes like, it's completely not COVID safe, but that whole
you get some random fights. You get the jungle guy, and he's fighting some guy who inexplicably, even though the guy's crouching the whole time, is just swinging punches at his own eye line. He gets taken out pretty quick. There's one really good fight. It's between like I don't know if it's in this round or the next round, but there's like a kung fu guy, and there's the
French Muay Thai guy,
white guy with blue pants, where he jump kicks him in the left side of his face, but somehow the guy does a flip this way from the kick. But yeah, and then this one was going to get to the kickboxer guy, the Muay Thai guy. So I think we can all probably agree that if this was a legitimate tournament, this guy would win. Like he's easily the most legit guy in the thing.
He was the most skilled. Like I remember watching it, and I remember thinking in my head that I just assumed when I was a kid, is like, okay, so that means everybody from France does Muay Thai. Like that's the French martial art. I didn't figure out that there's the word Thai in it. But either way, but like he was there. They're offering the rib shots. And then going like, I equate that guy to, like I think he's like Filipino or Samoan. The guy in Karate Kid, the guy that Johnny smokes in the semifinals.
He
was good. He was good.
Up until then.
I equate that guy. I equate the
that's true. I never really thought about that.
And to that guy, like they're the best guys. They're the best guys in the movie, but they don't get any love. So
like in between the rounds of the fights, that's when we get like the whole thing with the time filler with Forrest Whitaker and chasing him through the boats and all that. And then it's pretty much just cut straight back to the Oh, the reporter finds a way to sneak in because you have to have her there, obviously. She
changed
sneaks
her
in.
hair.
Yeah, they changed her hair so Frank doesn't recognize her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just more fights in the second round. I mean, the kickboxer guy, he has really good fight scenes. Like his fight scenes, when I look at them, they look, knowing now what we know now, they look the most believable. Like he's hitting guys with knees, he's got them in the tie clinch, and there's boom, boom. There's not too much like crazy stuff in his choreography. It seems like it's the most grounded. Whereas when Van Damme fights, it's a lot of like, it's like one steps for grading. He's like block here, hook kick around the arm, 2 roundhouse kicks to the face, and then like a back fist or something. It's completely hilarious.
Every time he lands his leg, his knee has to come up.
And he has to do the hot feet.
Boom, 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 boom. Knee up and then knee up.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was a color belt.
I was just about to say everybody did the hot foot reset because that shows that you're ready. See, the higher your knee comes up,
and you got to pull up your pants too, right?
Yeah.
Listen,
pull up those pants, get ready to go.
And more fights here. We do get this one. We get Frank Dukes against. I don't know whether this one guy had like 6 buys through the tournament. We don't see him till here, but he's this giant black dude that Frank Dukes fights, and they don't start the fight until the guy he gives one of these, and then he just like a front snap kick, but he does the front snap kick
and not just the front snap kick, front roll. Jumping front snap.
No need
for the roll.
There's two unnecessary front rolls in this tournament. That's one of them. But I was just like, why wouldn't they show us this guy? Like, show us some more of this guy. I want to see his preliminary fights. Like Frank dispatches this guy pretty quick. Chung Lee takes a few guys out. He breaks. He has a pretty good fight with the Tong Po guy there, and he gives him like that stomp to the knee, which that was originally how I first heard about this movie. Kids at school were talking about that scene, like, oh, Bloodsport, because I'd seen it on the video store shelf, and I knew who Van Damme was, but I hadn't seen his films yet. And I remember kids at school were talking about how, oh, you got to watch Bloodsport. It's a karate movie, and a guy's bone sticks out of his leg, and that was the selling point. I was like,
yeah, that was the moment with where my brother would like point it out to me, like. It was like when he had him up, he's like, okay, and he'd always make sure, watch this. Terrible older brother, but he made me watch it. I was like, and like always hearing Bloodsport. Bloodsport was the knee break movie. So whenever that time showed up, like it was like I'd kind of like go back and kind of not watch, but then that's when you get the grab, like, nope, you're watching this.
I feel like a lot of movies in the 80s where they were kind of like that, as far as like, what do you call it? Like the word that was being spread in schools and stuff was like, there would be like a scene that people would go, oh, this movie, this happens, you got to see it. And we'd want to see it based on like, we heard about a scene. I always remember like a Friday the 13th part 8. It was like, there's a scene where a guy tries to box Jason knocks his head off. And like, that was, oh, this happened in this movie. So you got to see this movie.
Wait, he tried to box with Jason?
Yeah,
you just said Friday the 13th part 8, so I want you to know that there's no way I went that high.
Oh man, Friday the 13th. Yeah, so Friday the 13th part 8, there's a boxer character in full old school 80s Adidas tracksuit, the whole movie. Red, white, and blue, just like American Adidas tracksuit. And there's a scene where he has nowhere to go. He's on a rooftop and he just walks up and he's like, all right. And he's even coaching. He's like, gotta work on my combos, pop, pop, pop. And he gives Jason about 80 punches, just breaks his knuckles. He's like, punched himself out, and he looks at him. He's like, give me your best shot. Jason gives him a hook, knocks his head off the rooftop. I can't believe you've never seen that.
Head off his body?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's like the only scene in this movie that's good. It's like
Jason goes to New York. Is that this?
Yeah,
one?
Jason takes Manhattan.
There you go. Okay.
It's the only good scene. It's the only scene worth anything. But
so you realize that at some point today, I'm about to look up.
I think it's Julius. Julius is the character. But they got him in the full USA boxing tracksuit and everything. And we get Van Damme against the sumo wrestler, which, have you guys ever seen any of these fighters in any other films? The kickboxer, the sumo. I've never seen any of these guys in anything before.
No.
So they maybe just took martial arts guys at the time who were in whatever their fields were, and were just like, you're not actors, but let's just come do this film.
Right.
'Cause
Put an open call out there and said, listen, we need some martial artists. And these
Black
guys
Belt
showed-
magazine or something like that, you know.
Yep.
Van Damme does the dim mak on the sumo wrestler, but apparently bricks are not as strong as this guy's abs, because the guy just kind of like does the Hulk Hogan, you know, like hulks up. That's when we get the Johnny Cage inspiration with the splits punch.
Mhm.
So that was, I think, the sumo guy took out the jungle guy earlier. I
Yeah,
believe.
with the bear hug.
With a backbreaker or
Mhm.
something. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then then Jackson versus Chung Lee. When I remember watching this movie, I thought the Jackson character was going to get killed in this scene.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like I thought, because you heard like, oh yeah, in this movie, this guy breaks this guy's leg and he kills another guy, and I thought this was going to be the scene where he killed him, just because to fuel the friendship angle and stuff like that. So, and they kind of do make it look that way for a second.
Yeah.
Like he stomps his head on the ground.
When someone is knocked out and blood comes out of their mouth, they're
Yeah.
dead in a movie. They're dead.
Right.
That's
Right. And as
With
the
this-
pool of blood spreads, that's your
yeah.
cue that
They're done.
Yeah.
They're done.
Yeah.
you can look away now. Right.
They do the
Might as well have done this to his eyes.
Chung Lee or
Right,
Jack.
right.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
confirmed kill.
Jackson gets him with the Polish hammer. Boom,
Mhm.
drops him, and showboats a bit too much, and yeah, so that's it. So then we're pretty much right into the last. I don't think there's anything between this and the next day. I think maybe one scene or something with the reporter or something, or the cops. Oh, the cops try to arrest him at the venue, and they got the tasers out again. But Van Damme is smart. He deflects the taser into the Hong Kong cops, and because of that, the cops are like, you know what? We're not going to arrest you. We're just going to come in and watch and cheer you on now. Like that, the taser didn't work. Forrest Whitaker's like, let's just go watch the fight.
Right.
You got me. You got
Yeah,
me.
you got me.
I was just
Like,
joking.
at this
I was
stage-
joking.
At this stage, they went
there.
there to prevent him from getting hurt or whatever was the original concern. At this stage, he's already done like 6 fights. You know, he's got 1 day left. It's just like, he's getting on the plane tomorrow. Let's just go watch. Let's buy a ticket. Somehow, I think the most unrealistic thing about this is that they showed up that late and still got front row seats. I don't think that would have been happening in real life.
It's because it's secret.
Yeah. Semifinals, we get Frank Dukes against the kickboxer. This was my favorite fight scene in the movie. At one point, they're just doing padachagis on each other or something. I don't know, at the same time. Dong, 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 dong. And yeah. Oh yeah, and yeah, they fake the handshake first, right? Yeah.
Right.
This was the fight scene that I think I got the most invested in, because it was like they didn't even start fighting right away. They motion, fake, and then a little bit of reset. Then they reset around the ring. Like it was a really good, well-constructed scene here. But yeah, they have the little kickoff, and they start going roundhouse kicks with each other. And Frank just throws a spin hook kick in the mix out of nowhere. Took him out with that.
Right.
Chung Lee kills his
spin hook kicks that wasn't a spin axe kick.
yeah.
One of the only times
Jump split, spinning axe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Chung Lee dispatches him. He kills his next guy in like 2 seconds. It's like oh, and he gets pissed off because nobody will cheer for him after he killed the guy. Get to the finals. I hadn't seen this movie probably about 6-7 years before I put it on the other day. And I seem to remember the final match, like we were saying before, being more competitive than it is. Like right from the get-go, Van Damme is, and I'm not talking just popping him fast, like he's winding up and just boom, boom, big obvious shots. And Chung Lee is taking the shots and then looking surprised that he's getting hit. And I'm just sitting there like, can he not see any of this coming? Like he gets teed off on about 15 times unanswered before he pulls that salt packet out of his belt.
Right. With
Like,
all Clubber Lang type hooks. That requires this. That there's
Clubber
no way
Lang.
you can't see this not coming. You have to know he's about to throw hooks in your body. Right.
It's then we get the next, which is we're talking about unnecessary, the front roll before the front kick.
Mhm.
Van Damme does a jumping split for no other reason other than he's Jean-Claude Van Damme and it's probably in the contract.
In his
Maybe not by
contract.
this, not by this point, but he does a jumping split over Chung Lee's front somersault. What was Chung Lee trying to do?
Because
Van
if
Damme
he had
had-
still been standing there, he was just gonna roll into his thighs and then grab his legs And then he was gonna fall back and do the Mike Tyson sit-ups where he just falls down because he's sitting there holding his shit. Come on, man.
That was the best. Like he just jumped.
That was a little bit of Blanca. So he was rolling to him and then electrify himself.
I mean, he absorbed the energy from the jungle dude earlier when he lost.
Exactly.
They got the salt packet in his waistband, and he throws. So okay, if he's gonna throw it in his face in plain sight of everybody in the venue, why did he have to hide it in his belt the whole time? Why wouldn't he just walk in the ring and just go whap? And then it's just like he could have took over from the beginning, you know.
Then the front roll would have worked. Back and then roll.
This whole plan would have been different. The whole match would have been different if they would have just went from the get-go and not try to make the comeback. Chung Lee doesn't get a hit in at all on Frank until he hits him with that salt. And even then, he puts the salt in his eyes, and the first thing that happens is Frank just kicks him in the face anyway.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't make his comeback right away. So it's like, I don't know. It's an iconic fight scene for a martial arts movie, but it's definitely not the best choreographed scene. It's two guys just standing there, just doing bag drills, taking turns back and forth on each other.
If it was like in the Fast and Furious movies, like it's in the contract in the Fast and Furious movies. Well, so I've heard that like any of the big guys when they have to fight, like they can't have like more shots than the other person. Like each fight has to be like a 50-50 fight. So like if Vin Diesel and The Rock fight, like one can't be winning, right? Even though nothing happens, one can't be winning. Like it's in the contract. Like that contract, if there was anything like that in this movie, like Bolo Young gets nothing because he's just gonna get eaten up, and he knows that's what's gonna be, right? He can't even use his voice.
Yeah, but this it's got a lot of like there's shots that are just, you know, everybody knows these shots, like Van Damme jumping off the ref, giving him the jump side kick. The one where he does another one that Van Damme staple. He's got to hit you with a side kick and hold it there. You've already fallen. There's no reason to hold it there other than to show you how much leg control I have. And then the recoil, that hard recoil. He gets him with that. He gets him what he does about 8 crescent kicks in a row that all miss. Chung Lee doesn't try to counter any of them. Now you're telling me this in 1988, a guy from Korea doesn't have a parachagi. And in 1988, Koreans had the one thing they definitely had parachagis.
Yeah,
young
right
man.
under that. Over.
Yeah. It would have been boom, he would have countered every single one of those with a parachagi.
They had the Van Damme hands too, right? When he's swinging it over.
I mean, great stuff though. And then, you know, the big spin hook kicks, the jumping helicopter kicks. He gets about 3 or 4 of them, and you get the big slow motion on Chung Lee, the skin on his face, like the cartoonish. They should have, you know what, if they were going to dub in all those voices, they should have dubbed like a voice of like or something like that. In
the rubber sound, like from the mask, where it's like
does the little fist to the reporter, the thing here.
Yeah, because
and then we get the best thing of the movie here. We get Frank Dukes's world records pop up on the screen. I gotta actually like look this up here because this is the funniest. The way that this closes out here, as it says, Dukes still holds 4 world records. Fastest knockout, 3.2 seconds. So that one, okay, right? Maybe you could make a case for that. Sounds like it could be realistic. Done, right? Fastest punch with a knockout, 0.42 seconds. So this is supposed to take place in like the 70s. What technology is clocking that punch?
Omega.
Fastest kick with a knockout, 72 miles an hour. I mean, we're still not getting to the crescendo of this. Most consecutive knockouts in a single tournament, 56. Now, I've been to a lot of tournaments. I've been to a couple of those US Opens, had some pretty big brackets. But I'm pretty sure that I read that this would be like 72 quadrillion people would have to be in that bracket to have 56 knockouts in a single elimination. I've seen some people run some brackets pretty deep at some of these events, but
unless it's
But it's a secret tournament, but there was that many people in the bracket to be able to have 56 matches with all that's not even assuming that's all his matches, right? That's just, he got 56 knockouts during the course of that.
They probably had 64 matches. So it's a 16-person round robin event. Yeah. That could happen.
Yeah.
And the tournament's only 11 days. It's only 11 days.
Three days.
Because that's his division. Every division has to have.
He fought multiple divisions. He was like
Sanaz
back
right,
in the day.
like
Fight
Sanaz,
6 divisions of one U.S. Open.
She won light, welter, and middle. Right.
Yeah, and I think 2 of them were even in the same day, maybe.
She did.
That's
She
crazy.
came back to holding and yeah, I was like, this is the most abysmal thing I've ever seen. It's an indictment on all of us that a person can come back and beat up 2 different people at 2 different weights. That's not right.
The same day.
The
And then
same
do it
day.
again the next day in middle.
The same day. So yeah. Frank Dukes is an interesting cat, to say the least. I want to say that.
I mean, he is a real guy. I mean, that's about as, when it says based on a true story, that's about as deep as it gets. He does exist. He is a human being that exists, whether he was in the military.
He gave us this movie and this story at a time that propelled us into a rebirth of martial arts. So I'm older than you guys. I remember Game of Death and Enter the Dragon and Fists of Fury and Chinese Connection. And there was a lull. Martial arts movies had gone, nobody interested in that. And the 80s, he brought them back, And so for all of the campiness, for all of the ridiculousness, it gave us another run at martial arts movies. And again, a lot of them were bad, but we watched them.
Yep.
And the only reason we know they were bad is because we sat there and we watched them. We watched them all the way through.
And you know what?
Absolutely terrible.
People sit there and they talk about how, people like to critique things and critique films and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the purpose is to enjoy the film. And I don't know anybody, like I've seen movies that I think are great. Like my favorite movie ever is Big Trouble in Little China. And people who see that movie today, and I tell them how much I love that movie, they're like, I don't get it. Like they don't understand it because it's really like, it's part of that time period, I guess. Right. Yeah. Right. Whereas this movie, I'm sitting here thinking about now, I can't think of a time that I've ever heard about anybody watching this movie and not enjoying it. Like, I really can't think, I'm sure that has happened, but anybody that I know, I can't think of anybody who's seen this movie who told me, I don't like that movie. Even if they didn't do martial arts, like even if they're just like fan of movies, because everything in this story is, it's not so campy you can't take it seriously, but it's like, it's just the right balance. It's just the right balance. It hits you on all the emotional. So I think it definitely holds up. Like, I mean, I think even kids today, like I've never really asked any of my students who are like teenagers or whatever, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't like this if they saw it, because like we said at the beginning, it's so video game, it's so pro wrestling that you can like, it gives you a very basic structure of a story. And, but it just hits all the right beats that you can't relate to it.
It gives you action to get your heart rate going. That's what wrestling does. Wrestling gets your heart beating fast. We know now. Listen, and I used to be a guy at the wrestling matches with the cardboard signs and all of that, and I do all of that.
Yeah.
I always said that wrestling is the realest, not real stuff in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
300-pound dudes jumping on you, that takes a degree of athleticism.
No, it's so true. Like, and it's corny when you watch this. I mean, you can't look at it that way though. I mean, because that would be like looking at a video game being like, well, I mean, you can't really throw a Hadouken.
But Mark, I think you made a point earlier that the point of this is to enjoy it. And nobody goes to wrestling thinking that wrestling is the real world and their lives is the fake world.
Yeah.
Their lives is the real world. And so I leave my real world, I leave the bills and the children and all that other stuff. And for a couple hours, I'm watching a ladder match and Jeff Hardy's hanging 40 feet up in the air. And you're like, they're not getting ready to throw this dude through this actual table. And they do. And I'm like, how are his ribs? So I said, they're going, how are his ribs not broken? Oh my God, he's got to have a pad on under that. So while I'm analyzing all of that, I still enjoy it because I leave going, that was, there's no way he could have done it. Right. Or I texted somebody like you, Mark, there's no way. We having all of that dialogue about it. It was a degree of enjoyment. And so I think that martial arts movies did that for us. They made us want to do martial arts, but Bloodsport, I think, kind of took the theme of Rocky, because Rocky 1, 2, and 3 had already come out by 88. He had already fought Clubber Lang.
87, Rocky 4 came out.
All right, so he had already fought Drago. So that whole cheer, let's get it. He took all of that out of Rocky and brought it to the martial arts. And this is why I think Bloodsport is the catalyst for all the stuff that came next.
And on top of that, like Jean-Claude Van Damme, even though like he gets a lot of flack for like his acting chops as you wrap it up here, it's like he's got a charm about him. Like even though like he's got the accent and all that, but he's a very likable actor. And his technique in martial arts, like you got to think of, yes, the Kung Fu movies existed and you had a bit of American, but like most of what American and Canadian and North American kids knew of martial arts was seeing Daniel LaRusso and how his goofy, like, his stance and, and his thing, it wasn't very clean, right? Whereas Van Damme, look at him, you're like, wow, that's like really looks very pretty, like his kicking, and we hadn't really seen that before. It was either Karate Kid or it was like Chuck Norris, yes, but Chuck Norris always made those like war type of movies. He had guns a lot more in his movies, and either it was that or we saw Hong Kong Shaw Brothers stuff where it's like if someone swings a sword at you, you just do the limbo backwards to evade it, come back up. Meanwhile, the guy hasn't figured, it's like 89 moves in one shot before the cut. So this was like the first time we ever saw it was like a good balance of
martial
not too crazy, technique, with charm, had some charm to it.
His technique only looks bad to us because we're martial artists, but his technique.
I wish I could sidekick like that.
Well, and I don't mean his technique is bad, but the effects of it. We know that in the movie nobody's going to get up from a sidekick to the face. Nobody's getting up from that. But I mean, the fact that he holds his leg up there, like in the Matrix, and he turns and you're like, yo, that is the thing I almost talk about as much out of the Matrix. When Neo does the sidekick and then turns his body sideways, I talk about that as much as everything else because for our lives, this is what we've looked at and dealt with. And I'm going, all right, stopping the bullet part is cool. But being able to hold you, what kind of hips you got to have to be able to turn your leg. And I'm thinking, man, if I could do that, man, what would world championships have been like? Right. So, I mean, it is for the layman. It was the first chance you got to see somebody who looks strong, who properly chambers a kick.
Yeah.
If you can say what you want about him, but he loads a kick properly. Yeah. So his heel is all the way back to his glute. And he extends his leg,
and like he's not a gruff looking. What were action stars in the U.S. before that? We had Charles Bronson, guys like he's a young looking guy, jacked, and he's got good.
His hair was laid in Bloodsport. I mean, it was loose. It didn't even move, bro. He's fighting. It's got to be.
He went from in the flashback scene. He looked like Screech from Saved by the Bell. Like when he was a little kid, or Jerome said he looked like Adam Sandler in the flashback bit, to he's got that kind of like perm kind of thing when he's training with Tanaka, and then we see him in the military and he's got like, he fought 6 fights, his hair didn't move not one strand didn't get out of place, and he was doing
he was a karate kendo, and that had value, that was necessary at the time, and again, They recognize that in America, your leading person has to have something that draws. And there were women who would be like, ooh, I want a nice karate man like that who can keep me safe, and his hair always looks good, and we can still go to dinner. And he has a suit on. He can kick all the way up there with the lycra in the middle of his suit pants and bring his leg back down, and his suit doesn't tear. Yeah, the whole. So he appealed to everybody. He was tough enough for us, cute enough for them, and that was a recipe for movie success. And that's knowing your demographic and tailor making your movies. And so that's why they were able to run for a decade, because they made movies that had followed the same formula. And when that formula ran out, so did they. So that's why you never hear about them. That sometimes I think in an early movie, they probably let him hit people, and people were like, hey, I don't want to do that. So in the future movies, let's let him kick at me, because I'm not about to stand in there, because I'm sure he could kick a roundhouse kick pretty hard. Like those scenes when they're doing the right leg patachagi, right leg patachagis. I'm sure he had to pull it. One time I see him kick him in the armpit, and I'm going, I know that dude's pit was on fire.
But the best part about that is that that this guy, if they actually did that, I don't think that guy would be going shot, or Van Damme would be going shot for shot with that man. Like you just look at that guy's body composition, like his leg, you're like, this guy's a legit fighter. Like he's not an actor, that guy, I don't think. I feel like if I look it up, he's just going to be like, he's a Thai champion or something. I
heard he was a legit, like really, really, really good Muay Thai guy.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely comes across, right? Whereas I don't believe that Ray Jackson holds the same distinction in real life with his Polish hammer axe handle. Come on, Frankie. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Oh, and also after he beats, like, he unquestionably has the best draw in Bloodsport, like his first match.
He got the number one seed draw, right?
Yeah, and he hit that guy, and that gave him the confidence to look right at Chung Lee and say, I'm gonna kill you, man. Yeah.
Wait, but did you see when he did that? He's in the stands going,
who is this guy? Yeah, I didn't even know who you are. Yeah. To wrap things up here, guys, I think we can all agree that this movie definitely does hold up the test of time. It's not something that I think it's one of the few films that I can say that I could probably watch several times in a row and just not really get, not really get sick of, it would have the exact same. Every time I watch it, I feel exactly the same about it as I did before. It doesn't ever lose its luster.
Yes.
Which, a lot of films do. Like, a lot of films don't really hold up. And sometimes you go back, especially if you haven't seen them for a long time, and you go back just on the nostalgia factor. Same thing with old Taekwondo matches. People are like, yeah, so good, so great. Then you watch some of it, you're like, yeah, it's not really,
Right.
But this definitely, I mean, it's the exact same feelings when I see it now. And as much as the jokes they say about they put the logic in it, none of the things that you can say that are negative about this movie take anything away from the enjoyment of this movie. And I think that's one thing that a lot of films don't have. Like, a lot of films, you notice something in it, and then the next time you watch it, it kind of takes a little bit something away. This movie is not like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's goofy, but it's still awesome.
It doesn't stop me from liking it.
It's the difference between a movie trying to impress you and a movie trying to entertain you. And this was clearly trying to entertain us. And it will always do that. The ones that try to impress you, as you change, you're not as impressed anymore. So you're like, you know what? I'll pass on that.
This knew its role right away. It wasn't going for the technical merit. It just wanted you to go in, spend 90 minutes, have a smile on your face, come out of the theater, and want to go sign up.
And come out of the theater and go kick one of your friends. Hey, man, what if I kicked you like this?
What are you guys up to these days? Like, is there anything you guys have going on? You guys want to talk about? I know, Jerome, you got your comics and stuff like that, your books. Where can we find you guys if people want to get a hold of you for whatever you guys are up to? Sure, I'm not really sure, Sherman, what your role with USAT? Like, I know you do commentary and things like that. Like, what are you up to these days and stuff?
Just
what do you
media.
guys have going on?
I transitioned out to media. I'm about to start mentoring our national team athletes. We're putting together a program to kind of address their overall health and wellness. And then I'm coming in to kind of catch up with them, because sports psychology is different than having someone to talk to. And so we're finding that as we're building this academy, we want to avoid some of the pitfalls from the academy that
the
we
old
had.
OTC kind of
The
thing.
OTC, right? That
Yeah.
everybody knows what went wrong. So we want to kind of go right that way. The event schedule is all wacky this year. So, you know, but still want to get out and do more events. Jay and I want to start a podcast and kind of get out there and continue to tell the story. But other than that, writing another book. I was looking for Jerome's book because I have it, but I think I have it.
I've bought several of them because I give them out as like giveaways to the 6 and under, like the young kids in the school.
Yes,
we have
that's what I
events and
was
stuff
looking
like
for
that.
because my daughter and I read through it now. And so she's
Oh,
5, and I think it's really cool that she reads about Troop 44. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, this is so, bro. I think it's really cool. And when you wrote it, I was like, yo, this is cool. I have a friend who's written a book. But then the interaction it affords me with my daughter, not just with my student, but with my own child, is pretty cool. I think she has it over on her side of the basement.
Oh wow, that's the best compliment ever. Thank you.
Nah,
So like
man.
transitioning, like even transitioning into that, if you Jerome, you want to give us, like, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
people listening to this probably know all of us, or at least 1 or 2 of us. But for those who don't, maybe just, you know, give a
Sure.
little update on what you're up to.
So I'm still teaching Taekwondo, but in just transitioning and moving on. One of the things that I do is I am a cartoonist. I've written and drawn the book. So right now, Sherman, I gave you like the first. It's a small one. That was a self-pub. So these are the bigger ones. Right? These are the bigger ones. You can find these on Amazon. So like that's like half the story. So there's a color one. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to go find those on Amazon, there's 248 pages of Haya, and I wrote a kids book. So this is like Dr. Seuss style. It's ABCs of Haya. Right. So that's how it goes. So yeah. So like A is for attention, B is for bow, C is for concentration. You're gonna need it now. All that, like that kind of Dr. Seussy kind of stuff. And then I also make I have my anthology comics. So it's Black Belter, right? It's like a black belt. It's like a black belt magazine. It's like my Mad magazine. So like any kind of short strips. It's not necessarily it's not an adult thing. It's not a kids thing. It's just it's my Mad magazine. So this is
you got the same font and setup as the actual
this
Black
is me
Belt
and
magazine.
this is me in my Gordon Gartrell. My Gordon Gartrell globe.
I did not know you had done all. Man, this is so cool, man.
Yeah, and I have there's like an Ernie Reyes Jr. half story in there too. So like that's Show Retta.
God.
So it's like Shredder and Show Enough.
Show Retta.
So it's so I got those like
stuff, man.
if you can find it on Amazon. You can find me anywhere really. Jerome Cab is the handle. So JR.
And I'll put your guys. I'll put some graphics on here with you guys, like Twitter handle, Instagram, whatever it is you guys have and use. Yeah.
Do that. I have a Patreon account. So like if people just want to watch me as I do it, I send off comics to them anyway. It's kind of like the Netflix of Jerome's brain. So. I do that too. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. Basically, when I was competing, whenever I do Taekwondo, I'm very like, if you can see the back, I'm like, I have a comic brain when I do Taekwondo, and I also when I make comics, I approach art in the same way as I approach Taekwondo. So they've like growing up, they've always kind of played off each other. Like if I felt too stressed from Taekwondo, I would go to a comic and kind of get lost that way and reset. Mm-hmm. Right. If I get frustrated doing any kind of drawing or getting kind of art, like that hand looks wrong, and I get frustrated, then that means, oh, my brain's off. I need to go work out and I need to go practice something. So it's been really nice to always just have and always kind of know and be encouraged. Like my parents and my family have always been very encouraging of like, yeah, if this is what you do, then you have to do it. You have to do it your best, right? Don't halfway anything. If you're going to do this, then do it your best. And I'm lucky enough that I was been surrounded by that, and it lets me do this. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm probably gonna watch some more 80s movies and all that stuff.
All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks a lot for coming on. I'll post
No
this up.
problem.
I'll edit it up. I'll put the links up. I'll have the YouTube, the video version up, obviously first before I'll probably have that up tonight. So
Okay.
got to do a little bit of editing, and yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
It was a blast, man. It was good talking to y'all, man.
All right, guys.
Happy New Year.
Have a good
Happy
weekend.
New Year. Be safe.
I'm going to get that black belter. I'm about
Yeah,
to
I'm
go.
gonna get. Yeah, I need that
man.
too.
Those
All
joints
right.
are dope, man. And I'm gonna
It's
definitely.
probably better than the actual black belt magazine. We'll probably.
I'm
you
sure
know,
it is.
There'll actually be some taekwondo. There'll be some
Yeah.
taekwondo. Never used to be taekwondo in that magazine. I used to get every
Oh,
month.
man.
Go taekwondo,
I'm-
and you
I'm
get
gonna-
excited.
I'm gonna-
You get excited when there was a taekwondo picture in there. You saw
V-neck.
Hogu.
second you saw when you were like, "Ooh, I'm buying this whole magazine to just read."
It's
these
the only
6
bit.
lines. No, but
I want one of those. I want
wanna
one of
get a
those,
couple of
those
those.
macho chest
Jerome.
protectors that look like they're made out of insoles.
I want to get a couple of those, Jerome, and then I want to get some of these kids in USA Taekwondo to support it.
Okay.
I don't know that they know, so I'm gonna go buy
That's
some,
great.
and then I'm gonna talk about what I bought and share some
All right.
stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, you're a good,
All right, guys.
you're a good dude, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, same.
Mark,
Game
man.
recognized game.
It is any and every time you ever need anything from me, bro, you know I'm always just a phone call away.
I know.
I'll give you my.
Thank
I'll give
you.
you my.
Same.
I'll give you my banking information and exactly
Yep,
how
that-
much
that's
you
when it
transfer
says
over. And
Sherman has left the Zoom call. Yep, that's
All right,
right,
guys. I'm
y'all.
gonna close this out. Good to see you guys. Have a good
All right.
weekend.
Have a good